A song dropped in October 1971 that you have definitely heard of. A plane crash killed three incredible musicians, and they called it The Day the Music Died. Even though he knew that was hyperbole, music would certainly continue and would evolve and develop in a typical gradual process. The singer Don McLean's lyric was effective in getting the point across that rock and roll would never again be the same. Now, I know this is not a music channel, but that's some context you need before I tell you that this past Saturday, September 20th, was the day college football as we knew it died. That was the week the old era, the continuity era, the development era, the 4-year plan era, whatever you want to call it, that era of college football officially died. This week, transfer talent triumphed over development. New ways beat the old ways. College football as we knew it, it died. And let's go game by game and see if you don't agree with me by the end of this thing. To start, this is the most noteworthy one. Number 17, Texas Tech went on the road and dominated the number 10th ranked Utah Utes. Final score 34-10. Baron Morton, Texas Tech's quarterback, got hurt early on in the third quarter. Will Hammond stepped in, righted the ship. Probably did more than that. 13 for 16, 169 yards, 2 touchdowns. Most importantly, no sacks, and no picks. 6. Just combine the two categories there. Texas Tech's defense is the one that ultimately won this one. They held the Utes to 3.8 yards on 69 offensive snaps for only 263 total yards, 4 turnovers, no touchdowns given up in the first 3 quarters. Devin Dampier, a quarterback that I was super high on. I made a whole YouTube video on him. The OGs watching this, they've checked that one out too. 162 passing yards on 38 attempts, only 27 rushing yards. That's the least amount of total yards that he's ever had in a game where he's taken every single snap. The reason I bring that up is Utah is a cornerstone and has been for a long time when it comes to being a developmental program. From 2010 to 2024, 12% of the 3-star recruits that committed to Utah became NFL draft picks. That is crazy. That's the best rate in the Big 12 and the fourth best nationally. In 2025, Utah returned 75% of their offensive production. That places them 3rd amongst Power 4 teams and 11th nationally. Texas Tech, whole different story. Exact opposite. Invested nearly $25 million in the portal to go construct their roster. I've heard that number is upwards of 35, pushing 40 in terms of the value of their entire roster this year alone. Nearly 50% of Texas Tech's projected starters came from the transfer portal. Out of every team in the nation, they've signed the 3rd most 4- and 5-star transfers in the last 2 years. That recipe beat the developmental recipe of Utah. Next one, we saw Illinois and Indiana. That was the marquee matchup of the day, and the Hoosiers absolutely dominated the Fighting Illini. Final score 63, Illinois only 10. Fernando Mendoza threw 3 more touchdowns, 5, than he did incompletions, 2. Illinois, much more focused on development. Yeah, I know they have a transfer quarterback, but for the most part, he developed wearing that one jersey. Their defensive coordinator, Aaron Henry, said, if anybody knows anything about Illinois football, we are the best in the country at not taking 4- and 5-stars. Kind of a weird flex, but I guess when you are going into that game, being a top 10 team in the country, that's I'd flex on that too. That is developing guys. Indiana, they hired Curt Cignetti and they went all in on the portal. 10th ranked portal class in 2024, 14th ranked transfer class in 2025. Heading on to the game down in South Carolina, Syracuse at Clemson. Final score, Syracuse 34, Clemson 21. Syracuse's quarterback, Steve Angeli, who looked super impressive to start the year. He was a high-profile quarterback transfer that a lot of people were excited about that went to Syracuse a year after they had a different quarterback come from another high-profile school, and Kyle McCord coming from Ohio State doing good things in a Syracuse orange jersey. Steve Angeli was on that same trajectory, unfortunately busted up his Achilles, but he shows that Fran Brown is all in on this portal mentality. Dabo, on the other hand, it goes without saying, if Utah is one of the cornerstones for development, Dabo is the cornerstone for development, or the poster boy for the old ways. He only accepted 3 transfers total in the past 2 years. At certain times, it feels like, some schools are averaging 3 transfers a week, let alone in a single year. Dabo has taken 3 transfers in 2 full seasons. Clemson led the nation with more than 80% returning production. 12th best program in high school recruiting over the last 5 years, and dudes all over their roster are set to be drafted. Now they're 1-3 for the first time ever, or at least under Dabo, I believe. And the developmental model, it's been challenged for 2 years under Dabo. It's going to get scrutinized to the absolute end in the coming months. For Fran Brown, he exemplifies what it means to be a coach in the NIL era. From Stuart Mandel of The Athletic, he said Fran Brown encourages his guys to go get that bread. Brown lost several key players to the portal from last year's 10-win team, but he's not complaining about it. In fact, I've seen clips of him literally saying, all right, if it's more than like 200 grand, that's not close enough, which also speaks to how the crazy money being flown around. But he'll tell guys, hey, you got to go get that money. You can't pass up on that. He drew headlines last spring when he revealed that he let his star receiver, Trevor Pena, walk after he asked for $2 million from Fran Brown. Pena went to Penn State. And then Fran Brown went and got Jonte Cook, who this past week had 6 catches for 113 yards. Moving on to an SEC versus Group of 5 matchup. I always forget where Memphis lands. Yeah. Here, Greg, I'm going to say a different line too. Moving on to another matchup. Arkansas at Memphis. Memphis 32, Arkansas 31. Memphis got it done with the 18-point comeback. Arkansas was a coach. It's one thing about how you build your roster. Arkansas also exemplified trusting your coach, sticking with your coach, that their plan and their program would develop over longer than just, a 2-year moment, which it feels like now in the new era, that really is all you get. Feels like we were in the 2 years, like that's all you got. And then it was like, oh crap, we need a lot of the funds that used to attribute to buyouts. We need those for NIL. So coaches have been getting back to more the 3-year leash, sometimes 4-year leash. But the point here, Sam Pittman was in his 6th year. That's when you're expecting things. All right, they got to start clicking. You hung with them for year 4 and year 5. You obviously saw something. You got a good quarterback. Year 6 is where it's got to happen. Culture would be something that you have over every other team that you're facing. Well, Memphis, comprised of 70 new players, came in there, 37 of which were transfers, and beat an SEC program. And then one that kind of goes under the radar, but I think is just as good of an example as any of these, is Maryland beating Wisconsin 27-10. First time in program history that happened. Maryland, their signal caller is Malik Washington. 18 for 32, 255 yards passing, 2 TDs, 0 picks, 1 sack. Malik now has 8 touchdown passes and 2 rushing touchdowns in his first 4 games. Only 2 dudes to do that are Arkansas State's Jalen Raynor, in 2023, and UCF's Mackenzie Milton, who had pretty decent career as true freshmen. Those 2 dudes as true freshmen. Wisconsin, again, if you're talking Utah, Kyle Whittingham, Clemson, and Dabo, Wisconsin, I know they've been down for about a 4 or 5 year stretch now, but in the 2010s, they again were a pillar for development. From 2010 to 2024, Wisconsin had developed the most 3-star recruits into NFL draft picks. Their brand is literally built on taking overlooked dudes and turning them into pros. Go down the list. The Watt brothers, TJ Edwards, Kevin Zeitler, Zach Bond. The list is impressive. And remember, Wisconsin paid Paul Chryst an $11 million buyout just 3 years ago to get Luke Fickell in the building. And his buyout is $25.4 million. That's a steep tab. Maryland, on the other hand, they pushed all their chips to the center of the table to go get a blue chip quarterback to stay in state and play for the Terps. One side, you go all in the new school mentality, see the benefits when you beat Wisconsin as a program for the first time in program history. The old era of college football as we know it, died this past weekend.